Recording has started. Thank you. Councillor Simpson here.
This is Councillor Dan Begley, Chair of Buchan Area Committee. Welcome to the Buchan Area Committee meeting on Tuesday, 2nd of June 2026. Please note that today's meeting will be recorded. The recording will be published online after the meeting. Can I ask if any councillor has not been able to access today's agenda, please indicate via the hands up function. Item 1, Sedrin. We have one apology from Councillor Matthew James, and Councillor Alan Buchan is joining us virtually. Can I take this opportunity to thank Councillor James for covering the role of Vice Chair over the last year, and welcome Councillor Anne Simpson back into the role of Vice Chair for the next year ahead. Members will note that we have Fiona Stewart online today, who is covering as monitoring solicitor for this. Much appreciated, Fiona. Thank you. Can I ask the committee officer to do a roll?
Can I ask if the following councillors are in attendance, please? Councillor Dan Begley.
Present.
We have Councillor Anne Simpson with us, but unfortunately she's had to leave the room temporarily. Councillor Alan Buchan.
Present.
Councillor Peter Chapman.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Cruson.
Present.
Councillor Matthew James is absent. Councillor Leanne McQuinney.
Yeah.
Councillor Hannah Powell. Councillor Colin Simpson.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Smith.
Here.
Councillor Anne Simpson. Present. Thank you. I can also confirm that the following officers will be in attendance this morning: Amanda Rowe, Buchan Area Manager; Fiona Stewart, Senior Solicitor; Anne Davies McLeod, Head of Resources and Performance; Rob Simpson, Director of Business Services; Emma Plunkett, Head of Property and Facilities; Craig Matheson, Principal Architect; Margaret Matthews, Social Work Manager. We have Matty Cow from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and myself, Teresa Wood, Area Committee Officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do members have any declarations of interest? Please indicate using the hands up function. For members joining virtually, can I remind you, should you intend leaving the meeting for a particular item, you should indicate that you intend doing so, as the committee officer will be required to remove you from the recording. You should not rejoin until invited back in at the conclusion of the item. Indications. Item 2A, Public Sector Equality Duty Guidance. Should any member not agree with the guidance, please indicate via the hands up function. Item 2B, Resolution. Should any member not agree to take item 11 as exempt, please indicate via the hands up function. Thank you. Members, before we start, I have some good news stories. Following the recent fire at Dales Park School, which had sadly displaced pupils, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Aberdeenshire Council for the speed and efficiency with which the situation has been handled. It has been truly heartening to see how quickly children have been accommodated and were so warmly welcomed into Central School, Buchan Haven School and Peterhead Academy. Pupils are now welcome in Dales Park School. A huge thank you goes to the officers, staff, pupils, parents and the wider community for pulling together at such a challenging time. Your support, kindness and teamwork have made a real difference to the young people affected. Thank you. Councillor Anne Simpson is going to make comments, so we'll wait till she's back in the room. And can I extend a well done to Peterhead Port Authority, who received the award for Port of the Year from the Fishing News Awards for 2026. Also to Murdoch Allen and Sons based in Hutton and the Hame Bakery based in Peterhead for having achieved various awards in this year's Scottish Baker of the Year. The Scottish Baker of the Year is for every bakery in Scotland, and this year's competition theme was Local Heroes and Icon, showcasing both local community talent and larger scale bakeries, highlighting the expertise, scale and craftsmanship. 3 members of staff from Aberdeenshire Libraries have been recognised in the Scottish Book Trust Bookbug Hero Awards 2026, highlighting their work supporting children and families through early years learning. One of the 3 shortlisted is a member of Peterhead Library, Fiona Farquhar. This recognition reflects the ongoing commitment of Aberdeenshire's library staff to promote literacy and supporting families through early years learning across our communities. Fiona will receive a certificate in recognition of her achievement. Well done, Fiona. Can I ask that letters of congratulations be sent to the board, Murdoch Allen and Son, him, Daycare and Fiona, and Dales Park School, please. Thank you very much, members. Move to item 3. Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Simpson. I extended thanks to Dales Park School, and would I give you an opportunity to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to record my thanks as well to all the people who worked so hard that first weekend to come up with alternative arrangements for the children at Dales Park. I want to do that as Vice Chair of this committee, but I also want to mention it in my role as Vice Chair of the Education and Children's Services Committee, which I have no doubt that will get picked up at our next through ENCS. I'm sure the Director has already congratulated the teams on this, but it's also good to see the children going back to their normal school next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item 3, draft minutes of the meeting on 12th May 2026. Should any member not agree with the content of the draft minute, please indicate via the hands up function. To item 4, statement of outstanding business. Can I ask Teresa Wood, Committee Officer, to take us through the statement of outstanding business, please? Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Chair. So if we look at the general outstanding statement first, as members will have noted, Action 1625, there's an update there in terms of R&I programme of work was presented to the last Buchan Area Committee meeting, confirming the scheme is still on the reserve list, and therefore we've extended the timeline to September 26. Action 1725, I spoke with Martin Hall a couple of weeks back, and he advised works are progressing well, with majority of works required to install the PEDX crossing and are close to completion. The team are liaising with the lighting contractor to confirm a date for them being on site to install the signals. Once we have a date, we will know a timescale for completion. Now, I was made aware that things have progressed a little further on. So yesterday, Martin provided a very another brief update, which says the lights are now installed, but some works need to be completed before the site can be made operational. Date to be confirmed as soon as possible. So that was yesterday's most recent update. Action 2425. Members will recall at the last area committee, it was advised that there will be no further progress with this particular action until the 26-27, I think the summer of 26-27, if I recall correctly, in terms of the school term. So what we're proposing is that, given that we won't have another update until 27, this action be temporarily removed and an update reported back in June 2027. So that's a temporary removal of that action if members are in agreement. The action 126, as members will be aware, the media release has been shared with members and it has now been released, and therefore 126 is recommended for removal. And then action 426, again, is recommended for removal. That update has been provided in the Berns-Hoos report, which is on today's agenda. So the full breakdown of all associated costs is within there, and that one is recommended for removal also, if members are in agreement. If we look to the appendix, there is no further updates in respect of the appendix actions. However, for the next committee on the 23rd of June, we should have an update to action 225. The timeline there is June 26. So I should have an update for that one, and also hopefully an update in relation to action 126, which has a timeline of July 2026. I think that's everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Amanda, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on action 126, which relates to Peterhead projects. I'm aware there isn't the regular update report on this month because there's been fairly limited progress. So the next report will be at our meeting at the end of June. But I just wanted to confirm that in terms of the works at our Buthnot, which have now, the road closures are now out, the traffic notices are out, and we're looking to be on site in this month. There is a local stakeholder group now being developed for our Buthnot, so that's to make sure that the neighbours, the organisations in and around are kept up to date. We're clearly on site now at the academy site at Kinmundy. There has been lots of progress getting made, and there's been some really great drone footage being posted on social media of the development. It's £110 million of investment for the development of the school, so it's really good to see that we're getting some positive social media on that. And there will be a public engagement event about the academy on the 17th of June.
Thank you very much for that update, Amanda. Very promising and good progress. And see a lot of work's happening up at the campus, so it's time to get there, but we're seeing it. So, Councillor Crosett.
Thanks, Chair. Just looking at
Use the mic.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just looking at 226 projects update. Looking in the backdated tracker. Bit ironic, it's the one that's got the empty box with the progress. Just wondering if there's anything to say about that.
Through you, Chair. Yes, we've agreed that we would have that for the June report, and there's a committee at the end of June. So,
Thank you. See no further indications. Teresa, do we have Anne-Marie yet?
She is actually finished in she is finished in Geary, and she said she was just needing a few minutes that she'll be with us. So I think she's probably very close to coming in. I'll just see if I can get her right.
Thank you. Just take a couple of minutes to allow her to come in.
So just in now, Chair.
We move to item 5, Education and Children's Service Year-End Performance Monitoring Report 25-26, Council Priorities. Can I welcome Anne-Marie Davison-McLeod, Head of Resource Performance, to present this report, please? Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee. So yes, I'm here on behalf of Florence today. So I'm hoping you haven't drawn too much of a short straw. I have been engaging with colleagues before coming in, so I have some sort of further information and detail to provide you with. But if there are questions that you have that I can't answer, which is quite possible, I will absolutely revert back to services and ensure that you get a full answer in due course. So this report provides a year-end overview of education and children's services performance across the Buchan area, aligned to the council plan priorities for 2024 to 2029. The report brings together a balanced picture of progress, highlighting where outcomes are strong and improving, where there are emerging pressures and issues, and where we're focusing further improvement activity. So in terms of overall performance position, of the 10 key performance measures reported for Buchan, 40% are meeting or exceeding targets, 40% are off target, and 20% are just below target. So this does reflect a mix, but in fact a realistic picture with strengths to build on and clear priorities for improvement. So some of the key strengths that the report highlights include positive destinations for school leavers. Now that remains strong, with 94.9% of young people moved into a positive destination, which does show an improvement on last year and is broadly in line with a 3-year average. Foundation apprenticeships are still a very significant success with a completion rate of between 94 and 95%, well above the target. This does reflect strong partnership working and careful learning pathway planning, but actually a really strong authority commitment to the broader foundation apprenticeship programme. Numeracy attainment is broadly in line with expectations, with 75.9% of pupils achieving expected levels at P1, so that's early, P4, first level, and P7, second level. It's slightly above target. School attendance remains stable, 91.7% overall, with an improvement in the final quarter. Community infrastructure is also improving, with 87.5% of Live Life Aberdeenshire facilities in satisfactory condition, which is above the target. But of course, there are key areas for improvement. Literacy attainment remains a concern. So 65.6% of pupils are achieving expected levels, and that's something the service is paying full attention to. That's below both the Aberdeenshire and the national averages. Participation in sport, culture and leisure has declined, so overall usage of Live Life Aberdeenshire services down significantly, and membership levels are also well below target. And early learning and childcare uptake for 2-year-olds has reduced, with fewer children accessing provision and work ongoing with partners to improve referrals and availability. The service are doing, in fact, a lot of work in that area to understand the barriers to access. What we're finding increasingly is that it's parental choice in many circumstances, but what we're wanting to do is understand better so that we can try and break down those barriers. And of course, that work with partners is really important. So I suppose in terms of context and interpretation, it is important that we recognise that some measures reflect national trends and wider system pressures, and others are longer term improvement areas, particularly in literacy and participation in sport, culture and leisure. There are also positive long-term trends, such as volunteer engagement through active schools. These things are really important as we look at the sustainability and the vibrancy of our offer in the Buchan area and beyond. So as a system, as an education system, we're focusing on targeted improvement activity, particularly around raising attainment and literacy. This is a trend that we're seeing right across the board. Indeed, it's a trend that, that's been a focus for a number of years. But we're also focusing on targeted improvement activity in our wider community facing services. So looking at that increased engagement in community services and more broadly strengthening those early interventions and supports. So in summary, Buchan demonstrates really strong outcomes for young people leaving schools and improving vocational pathways, but we do recognise that there are clear challenges in literacy and in community engagement. So we'll continue to work closely with schools, partners and communities to ensure that all the young children and young people in Buchan are supported to achieve and to thrive. And I'd be very happy to take any questions or provide any further information as helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. So I've got Councillor McWhinney, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Anne-Marie. This is quite a good report, and there is quite a lot of things that we should be proud of in it, but the LLA thing really does concern me. The drop in the usage and the membership is quite drastic. Is there a known reason or why this has happened, or could you tell me what service is doing to try and remedy this? Because it really is quite concerning.
Okay, so I did follow up with Alan, who was very keen to provide some data. He's also, of course, coming to an informal session in August, I think, with Buchan Area Committee. So he'll be able to provide, some sort of more life and more detail there. But anything you want in the interim, I'd be happy to go and source. So what we do know is visitor numbers decreased by 9% as compared to the previous year. So while active users declined in Buchan, visits to those co-located venues remain stable. So the visitor number decline is coming from Mintlaw. In Peterhead, footfall is increasing through active membership, Sorry, it is increasing, but the active membership is lower than prior to the co-location. So this is reflective of the changing user with more young people and parents visiting. So the soft play area remains really popular and the book buck sessions have grown significantly. The challenge for the service is converting that drop-in book browsing to active membership. So whilst we're getting footfall, whilst we're getting people engaging with our services, converting those into active memberships is proving to be a challenge. And it was a very challenging Q4 because, of course, there was, an extended period of adverse weather that had an impact. So the visitor number decline, as I said, it's particularly coming through from Mintlaw. We're seeing higher footfall in Peterhead, but it's not translating into active membership. So some more live data coming in. So in terms of active users, so that's individual people who check in and out books. It's down about 100 per month on average since moving to the leisure centre. So from about 630 active users to 530. The items issued are down by 320 per month on average. So that's books, magazines, audio-visual resources. And that's sort of matching the pattern around active users, in terms of that library piece. The book browsing though, and the footfall is going up. So we're seeing up, that going up by about 685 visits per month. So the more formal engagement is declining. People are sort of coming back in terms of footfall. And the book bug sessions are significantly increased, so from 41 last year to 133 for the year of reporting. So basically what we're seeing is more young people and children and parents are engaging with the library and the small soft play provision. And a lot of the children's books are read there, and you don't necessarily need a library membership to do that. So we're not sure that the active users is actually accurately representing the true picture. But I know that Alan would be happier to talk in any more detail about that at his forthcoming visit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Cowell?
Thanks, Anne-Marie. I'd also add that I did reiterate last time that you can't swim anywhere as a family on a Sunday afternoon, which might have an impact. It's a key time for families to swim. My question is really around the 65.6% of the literacy that you mentioned. It's quite a stark figure, and I wonder, do we have a specific breakdown of these attainment percentages isolated to P1, P4 and P7? Because how does that correlate with the removal of enhanced provision that has possibly impacted those literacy levels from P1 as more students with additional support needs are in those classrooms? And is there an argument to look at re-establishing that specialised support? As we know, if you have the support to start a primary school, it does prevent the gaps from widening into severe learning barriers by P4 and P7, which I know was a decision taken by Education Committee, but I wonder if that's a link that can be looked at, or data that you have. I don't know if it can be broken down further.
So through you, Chair. So Councillor Powell, what we see here is an overall attainment pattern right across the authority. So in terms of literacy and indeed numeracy, we're seeing really quite high achievement at early level. And of course, early level doesn't correlate to specific school years. But in general terms, it's the curriculum level that children work through preschool and then primary 1 and potentially into primary 2. So we're seeing really high achievement levels there. And that's a positive message because that demonstrates that the children are coming through the preschool or the early learning and childcare offer and coming into school, with that bridging of play-based pedagogy and learning through play. And we're seeing some positive impacts in terms of achievement there. What we are then seeing, though, is a drop at first level. So I suppose the question there, and I think you raise an important point around whether there might be a correlation. I would suggest probably not, or at least I would suggest it would be too early to know, but I will feed that back to the service and ask them for their comment on that specific point. So we're seeing the drop at first level, and then we're seeing an improvement again at second level, and then again at level 3+. So that's S3 and beyond. So it's that transition between early and first level that remains a really key challenge. So what we've identified as a system-wide weakness is what we call moderation at first level. So that is teachers' professional judgment about whether a child has attained that curricular level. Because of course we don't test them, in that crude way to see whether they've passed or failed that level. It's the teacher looking at their participation and engagement and the outputs and the outcomes from that learning and determining whether they have achieved that level. And of course, individual teachers have their individual lens for looking at it, but what the system tries to promote is teachers working together to sort of compare and contrast, to moderate their judgments. And we have a whole systemic approach to that moderation, that it happens within school, it happens across sort of stages, it happens between stages. So primary 4 teachers working with primary 3 teachers saying, I think this is level 1, what do you think? Those sorts of discussions. When I was doing a education focused role, and that was quite a while ago now, nearly 8 years ago, we had a huge focus on second level moderation work, and what we're seeing now is improved outcomes there. I think teachers are more confident and making more confident professional judgments in consultation and collaboration with their colleagues. The focus now needs to go on to first level, and it's probably a little like the painting of the Forth Road Bridge. You address one pinch point in the system, one area of concern in the system, and something else pops up because there's so much churn and turnover. Teachers leave and they take their sort of individual experience and expertise with them. What we try and do is bed that and hold that in the system. So what we're seeing in inspections, even where the inspections are quite positive, is that extended writing is a key area for focus. So that's, beyond writing sort of simple sentences to, in terms of comprehension, it's the writing of extended pieces of work. And we're seeing a requirement or a recommendation from the inspector around stronger moderation within the school, but also beyond the school. So there are some things we're doing. We have education support officers now in post, and they're leading that moderation work, and they're doing some targeted support using that data, the achievement, the ACEL data, Achievement of Curriculum for Excellence level data. In particular, there's a big focus writing program looking at that first level and currently targeting some of the lowest attaining schools. And the plan is to scale that learning right across all schools. The schools in the Buchan area that are participating in that first phase of that program would be Dales Park, St Andrews and Fraserburgh, Peterhead Central, Lochpots, Rose Hearty, Mintlaw, New Pit Sligo and Pittsford will be starting in August. So it is concerning. It's not altogether surprising because you get these phenomenon coming through the system. The service is absolutely targeting resources and interventions to address it. But I suspect in 4 or 5 years' time, when you have this report, there will be another point of concern in that moderation, because I think it's just the nature of the curriculum, which is living and breathing and evolving, and it does so in different schools and different settings. And it's about how we as a system knit it all together and make it one big coherent whole. But yeah, your concerns are very well founded, Councillor Powell.
Thank you. It's a very comprehensive answer, but I suppose especially P1, the data could be there in that they're doing their phonics, so that's easily to measure as an assessment. And I wonder what the program is that you're mentioning. We do Colourful Semantics, which is a really good writing program. I think could be easily adapted, and it's recommended by speech and language program. So I don't know if that's the one you're doing, but that would be a pretty positive step forward if you are. And finally, as I mentioned, for phonics, lots of the schools do read, write, ink, but one size doesn't fit all. So I'd encourage to look at basics, going back to the basics, lesson sound programs and looking through those instead, especially for ASN students. Read, write, ink's very difficult. So yeah, I take comfort that there's something going on, but I would say that in P1 there is that data there through the phonics that they should be meeting at the end of P1, P2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Simpson, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Anne-Marie, for the comprehensive report and answer to questions so far. I was going to raise the issue of the LLA figures, which Councillor McQuinney has raised, and I, look forward to having further discussion with Alan when he does come to meet with us informally. I found it quite surprising that Buchan has only 11.5% of the LLA buildings, facilities to deliver those services, considering the size of the area, and then we have 6. So we do seem to have an awful lot less than perhaps in other bits of Buchan. Having said that, with the investment that's coming in the new academy, and possibly in Side 2 later. However, I also wanted to comment on the increase in the positive school destinations, because it's very gratifying to see what I think is the impact of foundation apprenticeships on that, is that young people are being better prepared for work through the FAs, which both our secondary schools in Buchan take incredibly seriously. And to go from having the lowest destination rate to now being somewhere in the middle in Aberdeenshire for 2 schools that are sometimes seen as not the best performing is great, in my view, to see. I don't know if you have any comments to make on that, Anne-Marie, but I'm a huge supporter of foundation apprenticeships. But I do think we've got demonstrations now of the impact beyond school. And also I think there's an impact on attendance. We again have informal meetings with the 2 head teachers and sometimes their teams later on this year, hopefully again, and we'll be able to explore that further with them. But it's a very positive story. Thank you.
Through you, Chair. So thank you, Councillor Simpson. I don't have a huge amount of comment to make, other than to say that the success that we've seen in this area around positive destinations in Buchan is not necessarily replicated across the board. So it is a big success story, and a real testament. And I think we all recognise the strengths and the opportunities of foundation apprenticeships. But I think equally, I would say that it's about how schools are engaging with that, how they're working with their pupil cohort, how they're selling it to parents and to carers, and indeed how they're working with communities and sort of the business sector, the economic sector, to talk about the benefits of it. So that's a real partnership approach, both within the organisation and indeed beyond it. But no, I think that the Mintlaw Academy and Peterhead Academy, and indeed the foundation apprenticeship team, can be very proud of what they've achieved. But the positive destinations it's also about that care and that individual attention, and the school's leadership team's understanding of each pupil that goes through their system and goes through their school and how they support them. So it is a huge success and something to be very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the report. It was similar to Councillor McWhinney and her concerns about the LLA figures. So two remaining points. The first, the figures on page 19, can we get a disaggregation between sports, physical and culture? So I'm not sure we can properly scrutinise and drill down into the reasons for some of these drops without knowing, what's down to libraries and what's down to physical activity. Second question was, I was pleased to hear your comments about the book bug scheme, and I wondered when the programme for this summer was going to be out, and will there be provision in Cruden Bay this year, which didn't have any last year? Thank you.
Okay, through you, Chair. Councillor Smith, I'll certainly ask Alan to ask his team to pull that information together, both in terms of the disaggregated data. I agree that would be helpful in terms of scrutiny, but also in terms of the planning for the book bug sessions this coming summer. I don't have that information, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie, can we have that information sent to councillors in a briefing note, please, rather than waiting for the informal?
Yes, of course. Thank
you very much. Members, I see no further indications. Thank you very much. 1.2, the committee has recommended to 1.2.1, acknowledge and consider progress made during 25-26 towards achieving the council plan priorities 24-29, referring to an appendix 1, and 1.2 instructs Director of Education and Children's Services to continue to present performance reports to the area committee on a 6-monthly basis. in line with the performance management framework, evidence progress and performance with delivery of the council plan with an area perspective. So thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for joining us and giving the questions and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Good morning. Move on to item 6, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Performance Report for quarter 4, 1st of January to 31st of March 2026. Can I welcome Matthew Coe from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service to present this report. Good morning. You're very welcome in the chamber this morning. So we will just hand over to yourself.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee members. Delighted to be here as always. Yeah, I'll just quite briefly go through the report, which is for quarter 4, the last report for last fiscal year. Overall incident review, a slight increase in total number of incidents, 104 to 108. A slight breakdown through the incident types, fires, non-fire, false alarms, UFAS, etc. They're largely unchanged. Deliberate fires, as we'll look into a wee bit more detail later, has increased to 8 incidents this quarter. Fire fatalities, pleased to report there's no fire fatalities in quarter 4, but to round off the full year, we did encounter in quarter 1 fatality. Fire rescues increased from 6 to 8 this quarter. Casualties treated also increased by 1 from quarter 3 to 15. Non-fire fatalities increased to 4. Again, I'll cover these later. Notable incidents, several fatalities following welfare entry calls, Peterhead and Maud area. 1 serious fire rescue which occurred in Peterhead, and 1 cardiac arrest call through the Maud co-responders, which casualty also did not survive. Accidental dwelling fires. The accidental dwelling fires are the highest in Peterhead South and Cruden Ward, 13 across the year, across all 4 quarters. There was 4 recorded within this ward for this quarter. We've identified these potential hotspots to be Cruden Bay, Bodham, and within care establishments, and we're currently targeting these areas for community engagement and prevention work. Accidental dwelling fire casualties, section 4. As I said earlier, there was 1 person's reported incident within Peterhead area, which resulted in firefighters rescuing a female who required extended hospital treatment due to injuries from this incident. Section 5 is non-fire casualties, as I touched on earlier. Maud, as you'll be aware, has a co-responder element supporting the Scottish Ambulance Service on specific calls. Which results in quite a high number of co-responder calls and non-fire casualties, and resulting in a higher rate within the central Buchan area, which is the area Maud covers. Peterhead firefighters discovered 2 fatalities, 1 within each home they were requested to gain entry, either by Police Scotland and or Scottish Ambulance Service. And similarly, Maud had 1 fatality where they also gained entry and found somebody within. As I mentioned earlier through the brief overview, unfortunately, we've seen an increase in 8 incidents for deliberate fire sighting. It's a notable concern. Recent media showed wheelie bin fires within Peterhead North Rattery area, which I'm delighted to report that offenders were subsequently caught. Police Scotland and charged. We're carrying out positive intervention alongside our Police Scotland colleagues. We've also introduced a new community intelligence reporting form which can be shared amongst partners. It improves real-time information sharing, and we're also carrying out joint patrols and educational work across the Peterhead area. Non-domestic fires, the numbers are relatively unchanged. There was a significant fire in the Peterhead harbour area, which you'll be aware of again, which required a significant number of resources. That fire was accidental down to a heater. And there were 2 smaller retail fires that were out on arrival before the fire service ended. Traffic collisions, there were 6 road traffic collisions in quarter 4, 2 on the A950, which is the Peterhead to Newbridge Sligo road, and the others were spread across several rural locations. One of these incidents involved a driver having a medical episode in a smaller town. Moving on to section 10, which is our prevention and protection activity work. Delighted to report that home fire safety visits within the Buchan area has increased from 26 to 34. And just a reminder that it's a new risk targeted approach the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service has. Community engagement stuff that is ongoing within Buchan. We are carrying out more focused school and nursery visits, as well as secondary educational visits. Breakfast Club, as we're aware, is continuing to go on and will continue through the summer holidays that are approaching. Road safety initiatives at Police Scotland. We also have water awareness talks going on at Midlat and Peterhead Academy for the upcoming season, where we'll see children using some of the waterways that we have. Fire skills programme continues, and we're also looking at the deliberate fire setting, as I mentioned earlier. So just to cover over what I've just said, a stable overall demand with slight increases in some areas. No fire deaths this quarter, which is good. Deliberate fires have risen, but we are actively addressing this through strong militancy working, hopefully which will deliver positive results. And there's an increased focus on target prevention and community safety. That's me, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Matty. Members, can I open it up for questions or comments, please? Councillor Powell.
I'm just going to ask, you mentioned that there was a new link or a reporting avenue for partners. What's that? That just for low, yeah, not residents to report anything.
No, it's a community intelligence report. So, for instance, if there is an increase in any sort of deliberate fire setting, the incident commander that attends for the Scottish Fire Rescue Service will share any of that intelligence with the partners, Police Scotland, which we can then share with local schools to identify those quite quicker. And it also identifies trends as well.
So it's shared with local schools.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Okay, so that was just a good, I think, partnership with them. Yeah, we've seen a few extra incidents recently, I think. So
yeah,
maybe the needs being met.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, a fairly stable situation, I would say. Nothing really jumps out at me in your report particularly, but I do wonder. There's a big focus often on the in the media about fires created or caused by charging these lithium batteries. Is that something that crops up on a regular basis in your experience in this area?
Fortunately, in this area, no, we didn't have many of the lithium-ion battery fires. The quarter that we are currently in, we have experienced one recently up in the Waterside Way area of Peterhead. We did have a garage full of lithium-ion batteries that unfortunately ignited, but the incident was easily dealt with, albeit substantial damage. But with infrastructure that we've got around about us, obviously lithium-ion's a concern round about here, but with the control measures that are in place from these premise owners, confident that they'll be relatively low. But to come back to the initial point of the question, we have a low incident rate for lithium-ion battery related incidents, which involves cars as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Crowson, please.
That's absolutely important. Go back to the point that Paul was speaking to you about, sharing information with partners. So you said that could be shared with schools after a point. I know that some of the community councils are sort of feeling, what's their role nowadays in that, and whether the stuff that they do is valuable, and often asking us as councillors for information that they could possibly just get sent direct and be included. I don't know if that's something that they could be included in as a partner and just be sent that information when it's available to schools.
I can certainly have a look at how we can develop the community intelligence forum, because it is in its initial stages to share with the wider community. But its initial focus just now is a targeted approach to reduce those incidents occurring again, identify trends, as well as capture any sort of individuals that are setting any deliberate fire setting. That's its initial set and focus. But yeah, there probably will be possibilities to expand that, just to give people awareness of what's going on in their community.
Thank you very much. Members, a final call? No further indications? For 1.2, the committee has recommended to 1.2.1 acknowledge and discuss the attached performance report as appendix 1 to this report relating to the period 1st of January to 31st of March 2026. 1.2.2 acknowledge and discuss any local operational matters arising together with key resource issues as detailed within appendix 1 to this report. So Matty, please pass on the committee's thanks to your teams. The deliberate fires of Peterhead North and Rattray you covered. It's good to hear that this is being actioned quickly. So as ever, we are very grateful to you coming in the chamber and to your teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I think we'll take item 7 and then we'll take for comfort break. So business services area performance indicators report, year-end progress, April 2025 to March 2026. And I welcome Rob Simpson, Director of Business Services, to present this report. Good morning, Rob. That was good timing. You just popped up.
It was. Good morning. Good morning, committee. Yes, so you've got the year-end performance report for business services in front of you this morning. You're asked to note and comment on the performance within that and agree that 6-monthly reporting will continue to come through on this. Overall performance is generally quite good. We have 15 indicators within the report. 7 are showing as green, so they are on track. 1 is amber, it is just off target, and 7 are data only, so demand-led areas without targets. Overall, as I say, position is relatively positive with no systemic issues showing through. Customer services still showing relatively strong performance as it has been for the last year to 18 months. So call wait times within target, just around 5 minutes. Abandonment rates below target, just over 11%, with the target being 15%. And we have seen increased demand coming through. So I think the performance is relatively good in the grand scheme of things. And that shows that things are working. So staffing shifts that we saw a couple of years ago have enabled us to reduce the times, and we're seeing those service improvements through digital integration, those types of areas that are actually bearing fruit as well. So I think that is showing a relatively good picture. Council tax reduction and housing benefit, the data only areas within your report are showing that new claims and changes are processed within target times, which is good. And performance is being maintained despite what we've seen, a large scale transition to universal credit. So there's been a quick migration of our working age populations who are on benefits onto universal credit over the last year. That is good in some senses, but it has meant that there's a lot of work behind the scenes around that. So that increases caseload pressures, but again, strong operational grip, I think, showing through in terms of the data within the report. Asset conditions, overall across Aberdeenshire, we've got just over 94% are satisfactory, and we've seen that continuously improving probably over the last 6 years, 5-6 years. So long-term asset management strategy is working around that. We are seeing that increase in satisfactory properties. Suitability of buildings, we've seen it across Aberdeenshire. I think it's just over 83% improving, but still off target. Within Buchan, we're seeing just over 86% of the properties being suitable, 86% of our assets. So that's a relatively good position in Buchan. Amber across the whole of the Shire, however, so something we still need to continue to work on. Within Buchan, however, only 78% of our floor area is in satisfactory condition. So I've spoken here before around depots, around halls, and pavilions, sports pavilions, those types of areas. That's where we really see the issues. So we know there are issues across that. We know the position with our budgets in terms of being able to bring properties up to satisfactory condition, but it does tie into our disposal strategy, as we have also discussed before. So known issues around that does come into that wider asset strategy and our investment decisions, and as I say, our disposal decisions as well. We are, you will note within the report, seeing an increase in demand for crisis grants. So that increasing demand for financial support, spend has gone up. The number of applications has gone up across the year as well. And discretionary housing payments have also increased. So that really does show economic pressures, rising demand, and I think cost of living issues across our communities. So while we endeavour to do as much as we can around those areas, that is an area of concern as we go on. I think that's all I will say at this point, but happy to pick up any questions that anybody may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. We'll open it up to the chamber. Councillor Powell, please.
Thanks, Rob. I was just picking up on the crisis grants and just really for information, I'm looking at Power BI. Obviously, we are very close, the top bank for Buchan is the amount of single claims, but I just wondered, A, where does that crisis grant come from? How do we know what the criteria is? And B, I forgot what B was. No, it's gone. Oh, but just, yeah, I'm just wondering where that money comes from. Is it our pot or is it Scottish Government pot?
We do receive some funding for these areas, so there is government funding that comes through in terms of being able to pay out. In terms of the criteria, I think we've sent that around the committee previously, but I'm happy to recirculate that so that you're aware of what the criteria is that sits alongside crisis grants.
Yes, I remember what the B was. It was just in general, what are your thoughts on what's the reason for the uptake?
I think it is just cost of living. Everything is much more expensive than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, and we continue to see the rising costs. So I think those on low incomes and who are maybe coming through homelessness, etc., are more reliant on crisis grants to get started in a home and those types of things. They may have issues around energy bills, those types of areas as well. So it's really just cost of living, I think, and the increases we've seen around that and people's ability to deal with the shocks that come with it.
So yeah, no, I appreciate that. It'd be good to have kind of a breakdown so that we're, rather than just giving out the money, we're addressing the root causes as well. I'm sure we do, but whatever we can do at local level might not be able to be replicated. But yeah, to have that breakdown, maybe it comes through communities already and I'll see it, but no,
so just to reassure you through you, Chair, to reassure you, we do signpost. So where people are coming to us with applications for community care grants and crisis grants, we do look at the issues around that and we do signpost them onto the relevant services. So that may be the housing service, for example, or it may be through tackling poverty and inequalities, or it may be other partners that can assist them. But we do that signposting to ensure that we're not just paying out the money, that we're also trying to deal with the root cause of the issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, Rob, I'll just come in on customer services. Our service desk in Peterhead is very, very busy, and the feedback we get is very positive that the staff are very good and very helpful. And just to put in, the model for our Birthnet House is situated there and it's open for the public to see. Can we get some comms out on it to encourage people to come in, because it is worthwhile for people to see. So thank you very much. I see no further indications. So 1.2, the committee has recommended to 1.2.1, acknowledge, consider and comment on progress made in relation to business services performance indicators related to the Buchan area. 1.2.2, instruct the Director of Business Services to continue to present performance reports to the area committee on a 6-monthly basis in line with the performance management framework, evidencing progress and performance with delivery of the council plan with an area perspective until the appropriate plans are in place. So thank you very much, Rob. Thank you, members. I think we'll take a short break if you don't mind, or we'll move on to item 8. So I think we'll break until 11:10. Thank you very much. 3 seconds, stop recording.